Good evening, everyone. Live from Silicon Valley, California. This is Bhakti Community. My name is JM, and I welcome you all to a program today, Bhakti On, where today's topic is the wrong summit. Mastering yourself was never the final destination. With our speaker today, Vaish, a veteran Bhakti yogi, author, and a former monk. I got Premanishta helping me out in managing social media today. And good evening, Vaish. Welcome back to another episode of Bhakti On.
Well, thank you so much, Jam, for such a warm welcome. I'm really happy to be back here and great to see everybody. Thanks for joining tonight. It is a perplexing proposition, the wrong summit, because taking the trouble to climb to achieve a new perspective or come to another position that you consider to be valuable, and then finding out once you get there that it wasn't what you expected could be a little disconcerting, don't you think, JM? I mean, I've seen cartoons where there's a person, hapless person, placing a ladder against a wall, missing the opening and then climbing and then finding out there's no entryway into the building. So I suppose there's a hint of that in today's title, The Wrong Summit. And then we have mastering yourself was never the final destination. That's a little enigmatic. What is the final destination? Then might be the next question. And maybe we can find some answers tonight in going through some of the progressive teachings of Bhagavad Gita. Since it's a highly regarded literature and has been looked after by great thinkers over millennia, maybe that's a good reference point for us. I mean, you have to have some reference point. Otherwise, if you don't have an axiom, a solve for X, and the value of X, then you can't really move forward. So that's our premise for tonight, that Bhagavad Gita has wisdom that can direct us step by step to the highest destination, which according to this subtitle may not just be mastering yourself. There may be a destination and maybe there's a twist. So stay tuned to the program to see if there is some plot twist. Well, before we get started, I just want to express my gratitude for all of you to take the time tonight to check in on Bhakti On. The name of the program itself indicates that we keep going no matter what. Otherwise, what's the word on mean? And why is there an exclamation point at the end of Bhakti On? I've found, if I may interject some personal realization, that in any discipline, continuity is king or queen. It's helpful to have clarity about a path, vet it, make sure you're following the right path, and that the authoritative literature and those who are teaching it have been vetted and that they make sense. And then we have to continue. And the beginning of any practice may bring us some sense of tedium, because oftentimes our minds are used to doing what they like to do and not what the discipline prescribes. Have any of you found that in any practice? That when you begin, there might be resistance? Yasmin gives a heart. Kautik gives a million thumbs up. Ishvari Radha gives a flying thumbs up, and Negan a whole bushel basket of thumbs up. Denise is celebrating over there. and now I can't keep up. But thanks everyone for the response. I mean, this medium is funny because in one sense, it's very fulfilling to be able to be together in one place all of a sudden. And although we were isolated perhaps a minute ago, and now here we are all together. On the other hand, the subtleties of communication can seem somewhat stifled at points because we depend so much on being able to see somebody. Of course, I can see many of you, but I can't tell what Kautik's thinking right now. He's a very somber person and absorbed in deep meditation. And I guess emojis do help though, don't they? Okay. Well, fantastic. So I'm supposing, looking at today's title, we're talking about summits. There's some climbing to do. And that's good to know. As if we're going to set off on a journey, we are well served if we know that there might be a little bit of work involved. We don't mind a little work as long as we know that we're going in the right direction. Right? Good. Okay. So that's the idea behind this meeting, tonight's talk. And first thing I'm going to comment on is something that is foundational. And there's a picture in one of the first slides of a Bhagavad Gita. And I'm noting that on top of the Bhagavad Gita, quite nicely juxtapositioned, is a blue set of beads. I'm supposing that the designer of this slide has an aesthetic sense and wanted to have a nice color contrast. And I think whoever did this achieved that. The Bhagavad Gita and some beads, and why the Bhagavad Gita is our map. So this is an interesting proposition or consideration. And I'd like to ask you because, well, first let me ask, is there anyone here that is not familiar with the Bhagavad Gita? In other words, you've never heard of it before. It's your first time here and you don't know what it is. I've been there. The first time I got a Bhagavad Gita, I'm going to show you the first Bhagavad Gita I ever got. Do you mind if I turn my back to you for a second? I have to go to my shelf. Don't go anywhere. This may take a minute. Ah, here it is. This has an inscription in it from, it says Christmas 1972. It's from a friend of my brother's. It says, Will, with my name in my previous life, enjoy this book, Dance and Life. Merry Christmas. Love, Martha. That's the first Bhagavad Gita. When I saw the cover, the Bhagavad Gita, I wasn't exactly sure how to pronounce it, but it sounded exotic to me. And boy, was it ever. This little book, I must have read 150 times or more. Because once I got it and I started going through it, what I found was a condensation of all the wisdom and a justification of all the spiritual knowledge, justification and an alignment of all the disparate spiritual teachings that I was reading, being eclectic, not by choice, but because of what was available to me. I collected whatever I could. But once I got this little book, the other stacks of books I had collected were then put to the side. Passive voice, I put them to the side. So I found in the Bhagavad Gita a conciseness that I didn't find in other books. Now, granted, this book was only translations, and nonetheless, it was so straightforward and easy to understand that it kept me reading over and over again. And I learned a lot from that, but there were still a lot of questions. And when I came in contact with the Bhagavad Gita as it is, that's the title of the book that's in the picture we just saw a minute ago, the meaning of which is that there are various ways to look at ancient wisdom texts and to render them into the current language that you're talking to people in. It's called hermeneutics. Hermeneutics has to do with having a standard way of interpreting texts, because you may read them and there may be various ways you can give meaning to them or interpret their meaning. And so there is a rule for how to take meaning from the ancient wisdom texts directly. That is, without changing them into something metaphorical, unless metaphor is called for. And that's what Bhagavad Gita as it is means, that it's the most straightforward presentation of the meaning and spirit of the book. So when I got that, it answered a lot of the questions that I had. And still, I haven't really answered the question, have I? Why the Bhagavad Gita is our map? This has to do with the science of epistemology, which means which reference do we use in any discipline that we're practicing? It could be mathematics or any science or even in the humanities. How will you know what you're reading and understanding is? How will you accept it? How do you know that it's accurate and so forth? And as I mentioned before, we have to have some axiomatic truth, a place to start. And so the Bhagavad Gita is considered on the path of bhakti by those who practice, the teachers who have passed it down over many generations, to be the standard book of knowledge for understanding the path of bhakti. What to speak of the other paths, and then we'll talk about those tonight, which lead gradually, step by step, to bhakti. That includes karma yoga, funny juxtaposition of words, karma and yoga. Because karma comes from the word kri, which means to work or to act, and yoga. How do those things go together? Let's ask Kautik. Kautik's a contemplative monk, and we see him there on the screen. So since he's contemplated this very deeply, and Kautik also has worked in various fields academically. He's achieved the highest accolades then in the corporate world. But then suddenly he decided, let me just focus my attention on bhakti. So what is your idea about karma yoga? Since you've been in several worlds and have immersed yourself and displayed excellence in those different realms, what can you say about the words karma and yoga stuck together?
Thank you. Uh, Thank you for the encouragement.
Thanks for calling on you randomly. Sure, go ahead.
When I came in touch with Bhagavad Gita for the first time, it was a relief for me. I was working in IT and I was under a lot of peer pressure to achieve my own ambitions. And when I understood Bhagavad Gita, I had a relief in the sense that one has to do one's best, because nobody else can take your seat and you can't take somebody else's seat. Everybody has their contributions in society. So karma to me means contributing what you can in order to, help other people, and also being helped by others. So gracefully receive the help and gracefully offer your contribution without being envious of others' abilities that I might not have. So that was really helpful for me. And then yoga means to connect with Krishna, utilizing our abilities which are given by Krishna originally for service, for a higher purpose. So I feel both of them connected makes one really satisfied and peaceful in life. And yeah, one can live a more fulfilling life. I got more friends in my life after Bhagavad Gita and following Karma Yoga than ever. Yeah. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Well, may I ask you a follow-up question, Kautik? Why
Yeah.
not just give up work altogether and become completely inactive? I mean, after all, you shaved your head. Maybe you could just do minimal work and just not move and be a contemplative type of monk and not use your fingers and toes and hands and mind and stay fully absorbed somewhere. What do you think? Why not just give up work altogether?
Yeah. As per Bhagavad Gita and as per my experience, the cessation of work can lead to satisfaction for some time, but cessation of negative work is to be stopped, not the positive work. Just like the example of number line, there is something called negative numbers, and then there is something called positive numbers. When we leave something nonsensical, we definitely feel relief, but it's like coming to the number zero, and zero is better than negative numbers. However, we always want something increasing in our life, positive. So if we can work positively in line with Krishna's instructions in Bhagavad Gita, that increases our satisfaction and bliss, and it's ever increasing when we share with others.
That was very helpful and enticing as well to know that there is a line upon which there are negative numbers, then a zero, and then there's an onward path to positive numbers. You know, it reminded me of a verse. I just thought of this. It's in the 15th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. I'm just going to paraphrase it. In the 15th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna mentions that the world is convoluted, complicated, and that while we're in it, it may seem overwhelming. We may lose our bearings. That is, he mentions that the world that we live in is much like an enormous banyan tree. And it's hard to tell where it starts or where it ends or where we are in the banyan tree. Then he mentions that with determination, we should cut down that tree. But then he says something that I'm relating to what you just said, Kautik, that we should go on a journey after we're able to cut the tree down. And the journey, he says, is to reality. So that section of the Bhagavad Gita points out that the material world is illusory. It's not false, but it's temporary and it's confusing and convoluted. We can cut it down with determination. Can you say a little bit more, Kautik, about what it means to cut the tree down so that you can make the journey? Because I'm interpreting what you said and your trajectory in life as being something like that.
Thank you for the reference from Bhagavad Gita. I was reading Srimad Bhagavatam recently with our group, and there's a conversation between Narad and Vyasdev. And Narad explains that one has to engage one's work in the mode of service, utilizing every paraphernalia or material facilities we have in service and that leads to cutting the tree of work. So tree of work is our accrued karma that we have from millions of lifetimes, reactions that are going to come up, whether positive or negative. However, when we utilize our existing facilities in service for Krishna, for the purpose, for the pleasure of Krishna, then it cuts the tree of work, uproots it, and then we can start our journey back to the spiritual world, because we are free of karma. So when we take the next life, it is we don't have a karma, we don't have a reason to come back to the material world. That's my understanding.
That was clear, very helpful. Thank you, Kautuk.
Thanks to you for
Yeah.
teaching me.
Does anybody have any reflection about what Kautuk said, or do you have another question about this topic before we move on to another step in what is sometimes called the yoga ladder? Yes, go ahead.
Online. Go ahead, Cheryl.
Hi, Hare Krishna, everyone. Yeah, I like the analogy of the tree, cutting that down. And like when we're on our journey, we kind of got to go down into the roots before we can go up. So it's like going down, meeting our soul, meeting Krishna, like down below the surface, and then you come up to, I guess, the ground zero, and then from there you're moving like from a place of love. You're full with love, so you're not trying to take from the world anymore.
Very interesting. I love how you put that you're filled with love and you're not interested in taking from the world. That's a very helpful way to explain the difference between regular work karma and karma yoga, in that your disposition towards the world has changed. You become more of a giver than a taker. Let's see what Phil has to say. Phil, you're out on the farm. You're at Govardhan.
Yeah, I'll just turn my camera off because you can only probably see a dark face. So,
well, we're hoping to see a kangaroo go by in the background.
Yeah, we do 2 classes here. In my message, I've just started a 3-month stay at the New Govinda, and I'm staying in the Krishna pad where you do 3 months of learning all about the Bhagavad Gita. And we do 2 classes a week. And just last night, we learned about the stages. And I had them all written down, but I didn't bring them to me. And that was just interesting that we talked about that last night, and you've just brought that 9 steps up. So, yeah.
Yeah, these conversations are helpful on an ongoing basis because there are many nuances, and oftentimes in a continuing conversation about them, there are overlaps that emphasize certain points which may stick to us and become very helpful. Well, amazing, Phil, that you're out there at New Govardhan, and can't wait to hear any of the realizations you have, because that's a real commitment.
Yeah, thanks, Bash. And I've been meaning to, JM gave me your email address a couple of weeks back, but I just haven't got around to the right time to message you and get some advice and stuff like that. So be prepared for an email.
I will duly prepare myself. Thanks, Phil.
Thank you.
Now, I have a question for Chitra. She's a consummate artist. You may have painted what's behind you. Is that backdrop painted by you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I have many of her original art pieces. My question to you, because you have many years of experience in the practice of Bhakti Yoga, why are we restless in an abundant world? That's the next slide. So I'm asking you if you want to interpret that any way you want and tell us what what your thought is. What thought process in your bhakti trained mind does that stimulate when you hear this question? Why are we restless in an abundant world?
Could I say, um, because of not being grateful and recognizing the gifts that we already have?
Mhm. I think you could, and that's a sutra-esque statement that really hits the heart. Just hearing it makes me feel less restless. Could you say a little more about your own experience and living in gratitude and how you've experienced it, even in various phases of your life, or anything you can tell us from personal experience?
For myself, I feel it's easy to be for me to be distracted by things that might not be according to my liking, but if I take a step back and make an effort to see everything that I do have, which are gifts, gifts of um, gifts both from Krishna, gifts from my spiritual teachers, gifts from all those who are around me, gifts from nature, then I see that that gratitude can really help me be more humble and appreciate that I already have so much. So I don't, I just maybe need to go a little deeper, and I don't need to be so, I guess, work on satisfaction, which Krishna mentions as is an austerity of the mind that we can cultivate.
That was very helpful. You know, when you were speaking about gratitude as the antidote to restlessness, I envision it as a wave coming in, because then you describe multiple ways in which you feel gratitude. And it's as if in our restlessness, a wave of gratitude sweeps in, and practically the restlessness would be quelled or washed away by that sense. It's very helpful. Thank you very much, Chitra.
I learned it from you. Thank you.
Can
Well,
I, can I
yes,
add to
please.
that point? Sorry, I haven't put my camera on. I don't know what's going on with it, but yeah, I've been like very grounded lately since this heart attack, and I've had so many revelations, and um it's when I forget my true nature and the purpose of being here, um that I get restless because I'm experiencing pain 24 hours a day,
Mm,
and there's a lot of fear that comes up, and
mm,
when I simply just relax and breathe, I trust Krishna's plan, then I'm okay with what's going on, even though I don't have any answers. The medical doesn't have any answers, but Krishna is the answer. Yeah, so forgetfulness is a big reason why we suffer.
Forgetfulness is a reason why we suffer. Okay, that was helpful. Restless, I'm going to give the definition of a person or animal unable to rest or relax as a result of anxiety or boredom, offering no physical or emotional rest, involving constant activity or motion, restless, no place to rest. One of the premises of the Bhagavad Gita is that we do have a resting place. And when we give ourselves, as in we give our attention, our activities, our love to our source, I'm saying that sort of in an abstract way, Krishna, our source, then we do have a resting place. There is a place where we feel completely connected and we feel that we're properly engaged. And an example that my teacher, Prabhupada, used to give was about things being disconnected. And one thing he said was, if your finger is connected to your hand, then it's very useful. And if your finger somehow gets severed and it's lying in a distant place, the finger just becomes a gruesome object without any purpose. And if it is reconnected to the hand, then it can, of course, who wouldn't want to reconnect their finger to their hand if it was possible? Then it becomes again useful. And our resting place has to do with connection. The word yoga means connection. And there's a way that we can feel stable through service. And the service mind, as Chitra was explaining, her sense of the interconnectedness of everything in her expression of gratitude. So this is the budding stage of bhakti, is having this observation that whatever we're doing and whatever we have can be used for a higher purpose. And it's a internal change. It may look, two people working side by side may have different impetuses. So is that the plural of impetus? I know it's not impeti, but anyway, they may have two different reasons for working, although they may look like they're using a sledgehammer to break the same rocks. But one may be thinking in terms of gratitude and service, and the other may be thinking about how the work is drudgery and they wish they were somewhere else. So it's a matter of consciousness. And this is an important observation that is invoked by the Bhagavad Gita, by Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, to show us that, first of all, as we talked with Kotak about, although he mentioned the various aspects of a number line, the negative numbers, positive numbers, and zero. It is a misconception that the Bhagavad Gita dispels for us, that Krishna says there is no resting place in zero, because by nature, the conscious entity, that's us, is active. Think about when you go to sleep at night, you're active. And in any condition, even though your activity may be suspended temporarily, you will come to act again. So there's no permanent resting place in zero. And in negative numbers, we may work, we may be active, but it is negative. We're going higher in the numbers, but paradoxically, it's actually lower because they're negative numbers. I hope that's the proper way to put that. You may escape the negative numbers, come to zero. It's kind of like if you don't like your job and you go on strike, you're off of work. If somebody said, "Are you working right now?" I say, "No, I'm not working. I'm on strike." That means you're going to go back to work somewhere else and you have to find a better job. So activity is the nature of the self. So karma, kri, work. How will you work? That's the question. And if we change our motive for working, we're working out of gratitude or out of, as Sherelle said, out of love, and we're offering the result of our work, whatever we're doing, then it connects us. It connects our consciousness. So wherever we're working, whatever we're doing, we feel connected. In the Bhagavad Gita, 9th chapter, Krishna gives this directive to everybody. In the Sanskrit, it said, Yat koroshi yat ashnashi yat juhosi dadasi yat tapasyasi kuntiya tat kurishva manarpanam, which means that all that you do, all that you eat, all that you offer, give away, as well as any kind of sacrifice that you perform, make it as an offering to me. And then that becomes your connection. This is very practical, literally practical, because we have to move, we have to use our hands, feet, minds, and so forth. And by changing the mood in which we're working, the reason for which we're working, which goes back to the original point of this whole talk, which was the wrong summit. We may be working hard for some type of gain or trying to get abundance in our life. But if it is not connected to service to Krishna, then that abundance simply becomes a burden on our head, if I may put it poetically. And case in point, let's talk about money, shall we?
Money?
Is that okay? Or is this taboo to bring up on a spiritual show like this? Okay, money. If you don't know what to do with money, it becomes a source of anxiety. It becomes a great burden. I'll give you a specific example. There have been numerous studies, none of which I can tell you the exact authors of, but I've heard interviews of those who have done the studies and have reported. I heard it on National Public Radio, and it was about people who won money seemingly randomly because they played the lottery. And my economics teacher used to say, the lottery is a tax on the stupid. No more to say about that. And so people win the lottery, and most of them, nearly all of them, become deranged by the weight of that money. First of all, they don't know who their friends are because everyone starts coming around acting really nice all of a sudden. And they don't know what to do with it. So it becomes an energy that is oppressive in their lives. And oftentimes they become derailed by it. Most times they do. And so all the energies of the world, all the so-called abundance, means nothing unless we have a clear idea of how to engage it. And once we have that, then we can take unlimited types of energy, unlimited types of works, any variety of work. And if we know how to place it properly in the right hands or where to offer it, then it becomes an ever-increasing source of happiness. That's karma yoga. And this is very practical, if I do say so myself. Okay, so now let's look. Need we move on, or you just want to talk about karma yoga for the rest of the program? Do you have any other thoughts you would like to express? Monica, what are you thinking over there? You've been around, you've seen things, you're engaged in bhakti yoga, you've done karma yoga, you have gratitude and so forth. So what do you think so far? What parts of these practically stand out in your mind and in your life?
Hare Krishna. I was reflecting on the connection piece because I got into bhakti yoga through yoga asana, like power yoga actually was the first wave, and then into other lineages, Iyengar and Ashtanga and all these things. But it wasn't until I reached Bhakti Yoga that I felt the purpose of life. I would always hear about this great book, the Bhagavad Gita, and we had to read it in all my different yoga teacher trainings. But the message didn't really click until it became, and what I often tell my students in class when I teach yoga asana to this day is, it's the blueprint to life. So it brings this connection, this purpose, that it's, and the proof that we can't exist in the zero, that we have to be active. But how do we be active, and with which consciousness? So that really stood out to me, and it reminded me of my yoga journey, and landing on bhakti yoga, which was landing on the purpose of life and the that real connection, the yug in yoga, to connect.
I like that, landing on the purpose of life. Also sounds metaphorical, like a board game where you finally hit that one space where everything opens up for you. That's amazing. And when you're going through these various iterations of yoga, when did you first have an inkling for some of the concepts we're talking about tonight? You know, we've discussed offering your work to Krishna. We talked about gratitude. I mean, what was it? What actually happened internally? If you don't mind sharing, what do you remember where you were, what point you were when you thought of this is real connection? You're sincere in all your other attempts and doing what you were doing, but there was a climb. You were making step by step. And is there a time in which, was there an epiphany, some time in which you had a realization?
Yes, it was first meeting the devotees and attending a kirtan. So the vibration, I was getting really into sound and vibration. Actually, I was focusing my studying and teaching on nada yoga. So I knew I had a background in sound from a spiritual side as well as a scientific side. So when I attended this first kirtan with the devotees, I really felt that connection by the end of the kirtan. And they had books and prasadam, and all the things that I'm quite familiar with now, but wasn't familiar at that time. And it was such a beautiful. Oh, did it cut out?
No, you're good.
Okay.
Don't
It was
stop
such a
now.
beautiful. Okay, thank you. It was such a beautiful thing to witness, because it was the vibration, this transcendental vibration, but also witnessing the mood of seva and service, and how the devotees were interacting with each other. And I thought, wow, this is bhakti yoga. Like, I'm really interested in this. Like, everything is so there's this emphasis on service and giving back. So yeah, that was a pivotal point for sure.
I'm picking up, I mean, there's a lot there. Thank you for sharing it. You mentioned the word mood, the mood of service. And I took the liberty while you were speaking to look up the word mood. One of the definitions here, the atmosphere or pervading tone of something, especially a work of art. And it's interesting to note that there are moods. I mean, where do moods come from? Rocks don't have them. If you ask a rock, what kind of mood are you in today? I don't think you'll get a very descriptive answer. But we have moods. It sounds, doesn't it, Kautik, something related to modes also? When we talk about modes of nature, sattva, rajas, tamas, and the way our moods swing. Have you ever had a mood swing? You go from sattva to rajas, or rajas to tamas, or tamas to sattva. Any of these things are possible. And the very fact that there is a mood, and the mood of seva, and the vibration of the kirtan had affected you is very telling of the process mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita of growth, spiritual growth, and that is karnam guna sangosya sarasad yoni janmasu. Krishna mentions here the cause for our different moods in life is our association with the modes of nature. And of course, there are states, and this is another part of the conversation, maybe for another time, that are beyond the material modes of nature. They're called, there's tamas, rajas, sattva, and then shuddha sattva, which is beyond the three modalities of the material world. And that can be transmitted through sound, as you mentioned. And it can come through other people who are in that mood. Van, do you have a point you would like to make? Okay, I thought Van was speaking up. What should we do now? Let's look at a couple more slides and then see if it stimulates more conversation. And then I'm going to, don't be nervous, but I'm going to call on somebody. Okay. We are restless. Why are we restless in an abundant world? We touched on that a little bit. Okay, here we go. We're going down the list to see what we have here to stimulate our conversation. Searching for meaning in a moving world. Searching for meaning in a moving world. What does that mean? Searching for meaning in a moving world. Lata, are you at the ocean side there, or is that just an image behind you? It looks like there's an ocean or something behind you.
Yes, Maharaj. Actually, it's a background.
It's nice. Nam Chintamani has one too. Okay, how do you interpret this? Searching for meaning in a moving world. Did any of those thoughts stimulate any thought process in you for your practice in bhakti, entering in, searching, meaning, moving world? What does that bring up for you?
Go ahead, Cheryl. I think Lata can also chime in, but Cheryl, go ahead. You had your hands up.
Okay.
Yeah. So basically, like searching for the point, like the solid ground. What's the point in all this? Yeah, that's what it means, like to me. The meaning of why we move in the world.
Okay.
And
And
it's like the solid
you're emphasizing the
ground.
searching part. Yeah. Okay.
So it's searching for like that solid ground, I guess, like the steadiness in Krishna.
Okay. Good. Good. Negan, what are your thoughts?
I think moving board, it's the changing the mood, the way you said it, because when our mood change, our word change as well. And for mental clarity, we need some practice with the yoga, as you said. Because usually the yoga for me actually is different. It's a harmonized discipline to harmonize the body and mind together with certain rules actually, and can be more principle, having principle in different part of our life. That's why I think these are connected very well together. And the mood is a moving word, because my mood when change, my words will change also.
It reminds me of a title of a book I saw. I didn't read the book, but I saw it was very popular at one time, probably in the 90s or something. It was called Who Moved My Cheese? And it was some corporate type of observation about how, I don't know, I could understand the whole book by the title. Basically, it's a moving world. And if you're always pursuing one particular goal and you're not flexible and you don't know how to move around. Anyway, that's my thought about moving. Haiti, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna, everyone. So I think for me, it's kind of like what you started saying, that there's so much going on externally, and there's the moving world, and people are including myself, we're constantly, like looking for happiness or fulfillment externally. And then I think through, the practice of yoga, similarly to Monica, it started with like movement yoga, but then like learning the actual texts and coming to Bhakti yoga and understanding the different modes of nature and how the different modes of nature, like what you eat, who you associate with, and everything, how that influences how you can be more sattvic, or you know, and navigate the tamas and the rajas. Uh, through your practice, then ultimately you start realizing that all of the external doesn't, I mean, it matters, right, on like a physical level, but really the fulfillment comes from inside, right? Your connection with Krishna. And I guess once you stop searching, you realize that you're whole when you're in that space. And yeah, it stops. Maybe everything doesn't rattle you as much, I guess, because yeah, you're kind of you found some internal peace. Not that that's like a forever place to be, but like you at least know how to kind of come back to it. Yeah, that was long.
What resonates to me in what you're saying is a theme in the Bhagavad Gita about equanimity and staying equal in all circumstances. Observe, going through the Bhagavad Gita, we find that in almost every chapter. Is that a principle you think you're talking about right now in the ways that the world's always moving, but there's a way in which you stay equipoised despite the changing the world?
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, it's in I mean, when you read the Bhagavad Gita, you feel it, right? When you chant, you feel it. It's almost like I think when I'm a pretty sensitive person, and so little things like I feel them deeply, and sometimes that could be like not great in all the settings, but also it's also a little bit of a nice power to have, because then even small subtle shifts in like life, you feel it more too. So yeah, so when I eat certain things, like I feel a certain way. When I do my practice, when I read the Bhagavad Gita, like you can feel the shift internally, right, on like a spiritual level, at least. That's my connection to it.
I like that. It's practical. In other words, the equanimity that you experience is connected to your practice noticeably. When you practice well, then you also are not as disturbed in a moving world.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes.
fantastic. And
Thank you.
we're mining some principles here. Very nicely done. And Ishwari Radha, please go ahead.
This is a very interesting talk about the change, especially I'm thinking about relationships with certain people. You think that when you first meet, you have this idea, it's going to be lovely, it's going to never go wrong, all these things. You want it to stay constant, whatever that feeling you have for the person. But as time goes on, I saw so many changes. And sometimes you feel like, okay, this is it. I'm going to call it quits with this. But then after reading Bhagavad Gita and having association of like-minded people, you come to realization that this is not all in all. You're here for some time. It's a journey, and your destination is somewhere else. It's not here. So just tolerate.
Wow. First of all, I mean, we started having a discussion about the complexity of dealing with other people. It's amazing, isn't it? That I mean, at least as I get older, I know for certain that whatever relationships are there, one way or another, they're going to get complex. It's such and such knows so and so, and then they're connected to this one. Even though I like this one, the other one doesn't like that one. It becomes so complicated. And we find that in the Bhagavad Gita. That's why it's such a good setup for us, because in the Gita we find this battle about to take place, and a lot of it has to do with the sentiment of Arjuna, because he's saying, wait a minute, the bad guys are supposed to be on that side, but those are my friends and family over there. First of all, what are they doing on the wrong side? You have characters like Bhishma, who's considered a Mahajan, means one of the most elevated spiritual personalities, but somehow or other, he's fighting for Duryodhana, who's a villain. And that brings up the point of Dharma. I really loved how you gave us some stability here, because when you think in terms of what's my main purpose in life and where is this all going to end, this is not meant to be perfect. It's like my handyman, Mike. He's been here for 20 years. Don't try to steal him because he's too good. But he always prefaces everything that before he fixes it. He said, in a perfect world, that's his main mantra. In a perfect world, William, here's the way that we would do it. But when you have this concept of dharma, as you just mentioned, and also your purpose, meaning in life, searching for meaning in the moving world, then there's a way in which you can tolerate any of these changes, and just as you said so aptly, that we're just passing through. We're going to a destination. And on another level, they're meant to brace us. They're meant to teach us something, the adversities. We're meant to pass those tests. And the Bhagavad Gita teaches us the ways that we can face the changes of the world while remembering the ultimate goal of life. And therefore, we can handily deal with the inevitable changes that come up. Oh, fantastic. Well, okay, Radha Kripa Prabhu, you're going to be here for the close because we're coming in on 4 minutes, and I'm glad you chimed in. Because
So the quick one, I think adding on the
no,
issue
take your
that
time.
Mataji,
4 minutes is a lot. Go ahead.
sure. To adding on the relationship, I think very recently in fact, today I was talking to my parents, and that in our close circle, sometimes we are given a choice. If you're friends with me, you cannot be friends with them because I hate them. And then after a couple of years, they're the close friend, and I stopped having a relationship with them. And just like I'm feeling stunned on myself all outside. So this happened with some of my relatives, and he was sharing his story with me. I just telling, man, this is the reality of the world, So I just thought to resonate the conversation which he was pointing out. So
we need that. We need Bhagavad Gita, because otherwise we set ourselves up for this utopian idea that we're going to find some peace here. You can't find it until you have the key, which is that the main purpose of life is to be connected in service to Krishna. Whole idea, the movement in this world's going to be awkward, but everything is justified through the serving mood towards Krishna. Wow, JM, what should we do? Can we look at one more slide? We'll sneak one more in here just to see what we have. We have tonight is enigmatic slide night. Every slide is kind of mysterious. We don't even know what it means, and we're trying to extract some juice out of it. Yoga, not just stretching, but union. Yeah, it's good to know. I mean, I'm very on the surface level. I suppose it's being derogatory towards all kinds of yogis who stretch. I don't mind stretching myself, but also, it could have a more esoteric meaning. But this idea of stretching ourselves in various ways to try to be comfortable in the world won't be effective. But when we feel one with our source, then it reminds me of a verse in the ancient Sri Upanishad, which mentions that when we have a unified vision, we don't hate anybody or any living being. Jugupsate means to hate. And somebody mentioned at the very beginning of this that there's a sense we might have in our interactions with others of a sense of envy. I think Kotik was talking about that, maybe. Forget. Yeah, the burning envy and so forth, we don't have that anymore when we're in a yoga state, because we have a sense of how the world is working uniformly. In fact, this is a verse in the Srimad Bhagavatam. It says we shouldn't blame anybody or praise anybody, because we should see how the world is working uniformly and everyone's getting exactly what they deserve. There is a commentary to it that says, of the two, it's okay to praise people. But the union or yoga mood or realization that we have an ultimate purpose, and we can connect to that purpose through service, and that whatever work we're doing now can become yoga when we changed our intention for why we're doing the work. Intention, which is something that as living beings we have the privilege of doing, changing our intention for work.
There are a
Well,
couple of,
JM,
there are a couple of
yes.
reflections came. I just want to read them.
Oh, yes,
That's
please.
okay.
We missed the
Judy
board.
says, "Thank you so much for this group and welcoming me to the community. As a newcomer, I felt disconnected with the world and withdrew. And now being around others that are like-minded, I feel a new sense of belonging."
Wow, that's fantastic.
That's Judy. And Monica says, "I like the acronym Vaishika Prabhu used from yesterday's talk. E, energy, C, container, S, subject, also known as every cow sings, and how we can use this is a practical tool to guide our consciousness, especially first thing in the morning, to better process the tames and tamas and rajas energies that we may not have control over throughout the rest of the day."
Fantastic. It's a good place to end. By the way, welcome, Judy. Thank you very much for your comment. It's very touching. And thanks for giving. Wow, there's tons more coming in. Anyway, I think we have to go, but it's always nice to have a conversation where there's more to say. And I always feel that a group conversation where we churn the matter and we have more questions than answers is very useful, because then you go away in a hungry state and you're looking, okay, let me go deeper into this. And when you connect with the answer, then you feel fulfilled. JM, we need a proper way to say goodbye, because this is too hard to leave right now. But I'm thinking of some of our friends in the Himalayas. They dedicate themselves. The caves are oftentimes underground. Sometimes people think caves are just in the side of a mountain, because you might remember the Flintstones or something like that. They seem to live in houses for some reason. But I've been in caves. They're called gufas. The gufas. There's some in Vrindavan even, and they're underground, so deep in the ground that there's no sound down there, or there's no vibration from the outer world. And the caves up in the Himalayas, there are similar caves like that. But when they do come out, the yogis, when they see one another on the high peaks of the Himalayas, they feel joy in their heart, because they see a colleague, somebody else who's practicing, and they have a way of greeting and also saying goodbye. It's kind of like in Hawaii, they say aloha for hello and goodbye. And so it's a transcendental phrase. Hari Bol really means keep the transcendental vibration going. Keep chanting Hari's name. Shall we try it before we leave? I'm going to do it. Hari Bol.
Oh,
Thanks, everybody.
thank
The
you.
transcendental vibration going, and we'll see you soon.